Straw Hut Media.
Hello, On the Rockers. On this special episode of On the Rocks, we don't just get one icon, we get two. Drag legend Peaches Christ and cult film queen Mink Stole are here to spill the tea about their career and their upcoming show, Idol Worship, that might be coming to your city, by the way. And we welcome back guest co-host, Broadway and drag guru Josh Ferri to give us the latest in reality TV with me, your favorite host with the sassy most. Raise a glass, let the drinks begin. It's On the Rocks.
Thank you for being
Boulevard.
Life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death.
I'd like to propose a toast.
This is On the Rocks with Alexander, where I drink with your favorite celebrities as we talk about fashion, entertainment, pop culture, reality TV, and, well, that's about it. So pop a cork, lean back, and raise a glass to On the Rocks.
Fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Lord have mercy, who knows what's going to happen on tonight's show? And we have such inappropriate, wonderful, creative people. But buttons and bows and pantyhose on the Rocks podcast, the place where we're too glam to give a damn. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at On the Rocks on Air, and on Facebook, On the Rocks Radio Show. Send me an email, book me for a pride, wedding, funeral, quinceañera, bris, a John Waters film. I don't care. I'll show up. I'll be in it. Info at ontherocksradioshow.com. Also send us your comments, guest requests, and guest questions. You guys have been sending in great questions and guest requests that we have been fulfilling. The show's presented by Straw Hut Media. You can watch and or listen to our now over 300 episodes at ontherocksradioshow.com, and I give it to you for free. If you can. Yes, you can. You can watch us on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, on the Outlet.tv app, Facebook Watch, streaming with pride on SVTV and on Channel 31 on the East Coast. We proudly tape at UBN Go Studios, your one-stop place for podcasting, FYI. Also, we started doing YouTube Shorts, which is so much fun, and a lot of you are really having fun with that and commenting, good and bad. Well, we get the comments, and I read them. All right, let's get this show on the road. Returning to On the Rocks, Josh Ferri worked in the Broadway community for 12 years before moving to California. He began his career as a press agent for musicals like Spring Awakening and Xanadu, as well as the Public Theater. He then joined the team at Broadway.com before launching editorial content for Broadway Box, where he served as an editor for over 6 years, creating a variety of popular and viral YouTube series. And as a drag queen newbie, he performs as Normally High. Is he normally high? We'll ask. He won his first drag competition ever for season 3 of Vanity's Drag Star Challenge in Palm Springs, and has since been appearing around Southern California with about 5 performances per weekend. Please welcome back to the show, Josh Ferri.
Hey. I had such a fun image of you, like in the dark with a candle, reading the comments from the YouTube Shorts.
Okay, so I love, they say don't read a lot of the comments, and it's funny, I already know what people are going to comment, and I get emails too, and they're like, your voice is so high. I'm like, what do you expect? But it's fun to get interactions, because we've been putting on YouTube Shorts our clips about drag and some of the, the hotter topics, and people are chiming in. But it's interesting to see the people that will watch stuff about drag and drag opinions.
Yeah. You're getting all the comments Paul Lynn never lived to see.
Well, no, 100%, but also from the opposing side as well. But it's like they're still seeing the content, And they're like, we don't need drag queens in our city, but you watch the clip.
Clicks are currency.
Yeah, clicks. Thanks, bitches. We'll see you on YouTube Shorts. Okay, talk about Mink Stole. And Peaches Christ has had his hand in the John Waters world as well. What is the first John Waters film you remember seeing?
The first one I remember seeing is Hairspray, and then
100%.
I went in each direction from Hairspray. Were
you shocked in the other, like the early direction?
I have to say, I mean, the early direction is fun, but that's even too far out for me. Like, I'm not watching Pink Flamingos for fun. I saw it once. Like, Female Trouble is a good time, but
it comes from a different era too.
I lived in Baltimore, and like when you're in Baltimore, there's no escaping Waters, the family, all of it. It is the culture of that small town. And so there is no escaping his legacy and what he's created. But the early stuff is amazing. The fact that he made it, the fact that all of them made it. But I like the later stuff, the more mainstream.
I totally know what you say. Some of the earlier stuff is really like, wow, that you really pushed the envelope because there was nobody telling them no. You know, and at the time, we forget the climate. And Mink Stole, part of her history, you know, she would go to the protests. She was gassed at one of the Vietnam War protests. She had come out of this Catholic school kind of whole beginning. So the whole culture was pushing the envelope, challenging the norms. And I think that was the point of the art, rather than let's make a film like Hairspray. You know, it still talks about racism and stuff, but it's in a very cinematic way.
And also, like, the idea that Divine died before the mainstream success of Hairspray, and what could that person have created? Look at what RuPaul created for us. Like, what could have Divine have done? Where would they fit now in culture? It's just so wild to think about.
But was there a place, though?
There would have been, because look, it makes me, it's the same thing you think about James Dean and Marilyn Monroe, these people who died at the height of their fame and are always remembered by us young, beautiful, successful. We didn't have to see Marilyn Monroe walk a red carpet at 70 in bad hair and makeup trying to take photos with a popular person. Yeah. When Liza tried to get in the Oscar shot, and I'm like, oh, Liza.
See, so maybe
we don't have to see that.
Maybe destiny knows what a creative's time is. Maybe. Would Divine's work have been so lauded? Would she have inspired so many drag queens if she was performing at Morongo Casino, you know?
I'd go see her still, but yeah.
But you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, without ado, let's welcome our guest. Bring in my girls. Peaches Christ is a filmmaker, event producer, and cult leader living in San Francisco. She produces and hosts events in partnership with Polyarts Management for symphony orchestras, and her holiday show annually plays London's prestigious Royal Albert Hall,
that
if you can
some
believe that.
Gig. My God, gig. The Royals
Angela Weber is
there.
like, I'm on that stage too. Yeah, okay. Peaches is a filmmaker, the alter ego of Joshua Grinnell, writer and director of the feature film All About Evil. He's also the co-owner of the Into the Dark production company, which produces immersive theater, including the popular Terror Vault show at the historic San Francisco Mint Building. He's appeared in many films and television shows during her career, and co-hosts the cult movie podcast, which has become a brand and legend to itself, Midnight Mass. Mm-hmm. Also joining us, there he is in his little workroom. Also joining us, Mink Stole. I mean, how do you do a bio for Mink Stole? Best known for her work with filmmaker John Waters, of course, with whom she has created the iconic characters of Connie Marble in Pink Flamingos, Taffy Davenport in Female Trouble, and, of course, Dottie Hinkle in Serial Mom, just to name a very small few. I mean, Look at that legend. Other film roles include Nancy, the mother of a lesbian in But I'm a Cheerleader, and Evelyn, the librarian in All About Evil. Of course, written and directed by Peaches Christ. Mink was Peach's first live celebrity guest at the legendary Midnight Mass, by the way, and since then, it's become Kismet, and they've performed many times since, notably in Return to Grey Gardens, and their two-person show, which we're going to talk about today, that is coming to New York and other cities in the U.S., Idol Worship. And with her wonderful band, Mink has released a CD. Well, now we can stream it. Do Re Mink. Please welcome to the show, Peaches Christ and Mink Stole.
Hi. Thank you. Hi.
What a treat to have you both together. Usually it's like separate Zooms, but they're like in the same room, same energy, and I love it. We're just going to jump right in. You know, we use the word icon so many times nowadays. It's like a sexual position on Grindr. It's become so popular. But I think being an icon means time in the biz. It means changing the nature of the biz and getting recognition, if not notoriety, from doing it. You both are icons in your separate genres. When did you both kind of realize your career was starting to become, quote, iconic with a fan base? We're just starting off real nice and easy.
Thank you for the easy one. Yeah, lob us a softball first. Thanks. I mean, I've always known. I mean, John Waters films have always had an audience. Mm-hmm. And I've always been aware of the audience. Oh, wait a minute. I wander. Okay. And they've always had an audience. I've always been aware of their audience. I have never been quite as aware of my own personal audience as I was when Joshua pointed it out to me. Joshua showed me that existed, and I hadn't known it before. Because Midnight Mass in San Francisco, 20 odd many years ago, he brought me up and put me in front of an audience. And it was a real life-changing experience for me.
Wow.
Well, I love it. And it's such a fan base, and you have such a welcome, loyal audience in San Francisco, too, that you've built up over the years. Now, Peaches...
San Francisco's always been very kind to me.
Yeah. Well earned, I will say. I mean, we talk about you all the time, and now I know you're not, like, on Instagram and, like, social media, but, like, the memes that are going crazy are just, like, crazy.
I was saying to him the other day, Serial Mom is having such a resurgence on social media right now. The courtroom, your testimony scene in the courtroom where she's gaslighting you.
I do like that
It's
scene.
everywhere right now. It's wild.
It's a resurgence, and the new generation are rediscovering the John Waters films because of social media.
Someone should make that into a musical, though. Serial Mom sings. There's
Serial
numbers
Mom, the
in there.
musical?
Yeah.
There's
Pussy
numbers
Willow,
in
the
there.
song. We need a Pussy Willow
Monster
song.
Next Door.
Yeah, right. Now, Peaches, when did you kind of know that your particular genre, because it is a certain style that you do, when did you first kind of realize it was gaining this kind of cult audience?
That's a great question, because I think, well, for one, I was as shocked as anyone to find out that Mink, when I brought her back in 2000, to me, I grew up in Maryland. I discovered the John Waters movies, at a formative age, like 12, 13 years old, and they changed my life. And then I found my tribe in San Francisco. And of course, they were all people whose lives had been changed by the discovery of things like the John Waters movies, and so it was surreal to me to see that Mink didn't really know
That's crazy.
how much of an impact she had on our lives. And I feel like I had a similar, and still am having a similar experience. Recently I was brought to Tucson, Arizona, and then Dallas, Texas, where there are these queens who are doing midnight mass style events, and they're kind of putting me on a pedestal and honoring me, and I'm kind of going, hey, I'm just a queen, I'm just from the trash can. But I also realized I'm also performing at the Royal Albert Hall.
That's insane.
Incredible.
It's insane. I'm baffled as much as anyone else. Yeah.
Mink, I wanted to know, how was being part of the Waters Dreamlanders at such a young age? You were kind of in the background at age 19, by the way, in Roman Candles. How did being part of this...
I was 19 in Roman Candles. That's true. When I met John, I was in Provincetown. I was just a little suburban kid.
Catholic high school.
I was looking for adventure. I was looking to break bad. John will say that. I was looking to break bad, and I was. But I was desperate for something to break me out of the narrow little world that I inhabited, where the essence of fashion was your knee highs matched your cardigan sweater. I'm not kidding. That was important. So, and they had to be the right brand of knee highs and the right brand of cardigan sweater with a ribbon down the front. So it was, and lots of mattress. So I was looking for something to get me out of this, because I was really unhappy in it. I was an angry kid. I had been brought up Catholic. I had renounced Catholicism, somewhere in my mid-teens, and I was very angry about all of that. So there was a lot of just pent up stuff going on. And when I met John, it was like, oh, look, other people have fun. And John was really fun. And then, after the end of the summer, we go back. John and I actually had an apartment together in New York for a minute and a half.
Oh, my Lord.
Which neither of us can remember the address. But we went back to living with our parents. John calls me up, says, do you want to be in a movie? Well, duh. Of course I want to be in a movie. And that was Roman Candles. And
wow.
And then I wanted to be in the next one. And I wanted to be in the one after that, because it was the most fun I'd ever had. It was the most interesting thing I'd ever done. And these people that I was meeting were the most interesting and strange and wonderful people I'd ever met. So it was very heady for me.
But what did being part of this group, what did it teach you most about life? Things that you remember that, I learned this right away, that you still subscribe to this day about life.
Well, that everybody has the right to be, and everybody has the right to be whoever that person is. Mm-hmm. Because I was meeting people that were certainly stranger. I had not known about, I certainly knew that homosexuality existed, but I didn't know homosexuals and I didn't know drag queens. Mm-hmm. And suddenly there were all these people who were doing all this really Divine. The first time I ever saw Divine, he was draped in a bed sheet, and it was like, oh, he's great. I mean, it was all sorts of, but it was very much a open your mind experience. And, people are who they are. And if you allow them to be who they are, they can be wonderful.
That was fresh.
Speaking of divine, when you all began with John Waters creating what you've created, it was all so subversive. And now here we sit in 2024. Drag is so mainstream. RuPaul has more Emmys than anyone alive, any host alive for that show. Where do you think divine would have fit in the zeitgeist now when drag is embraced through pop culture and his iconography is still embraced? So he's still part of it. But where would he have been if he could be part of it?
Divine would be the Queen Mother. Actually, I don't know, because one of the things that Divine really wanted was to be taken seriously as an actor.
Right, 100%.
And wanted to do male roles. He did not want to be a woman. He did not refer to himself as a she, except when he was in drag and in character. So it wasn't as though he wanted to be a female and always wanted to do women. He didn't. He wanted to do men. He wanted to be an actor. And he was a wonderful actor. I mean, I always say Divine wasn't camp. Divine was a good actor. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's very possible that he would be playing. Well, I think he's a little too old to have been playing the Truman Capote role, but it's very possible, that he would be, making mainstream films and doing all kinds of things, or having a TV series. He could be the detective. He could have been doing anything at this point. But as a person in drag, he would have been, the Queen Mother, I think.
For Peaches, similarly, your career, you've seen this total shift of drag. How has that been for you, and how do you adapt within it?
Well, I think that one, I never ever could have predicted it. Certainly when I started doing drag back in the mid 90s, people weren't, there was, Divine and RuPaul, and that was it. Yeah. The thousands upon millions of the rest of us doing drag around the world. For most of us, it was at best a hobby, or if it was a career, it was, it was a modest career. And you were known locally. So to see drag become what it has become has exceeded any of our wildest expectations. And with that has been, great stuff, right? Like, I don't think I'd be performing on stage at the Royal Albert Hall today if it weren't for the success and popularity of stuff like RuPaul's Drag Race. And I certainly have seen the marquee value of these queens that go on the show. The difference between, if you've been on the show and you're successful and you're popular, what that can do for a career. I mean, we have, I have drag queen friends now who have multi-million-dollar empires. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, this is real, It's strange and surreal. Now, selfishly, I'm also a little jaded, old, and bitter. I'm a little punk rock.
Is that the name of your next show?
I'd go see that.
I'm jaded, old, bitter. And I think if you talk to any of us, quote unquote, legends, as we like to refer to ourselves, because it's nicer than saying old, we definitely feel like there's it's a double-edged sword. And part of me is very grateful that I got to kind of rise up in a drag world before reality television, because it was punk rock. The audiences were wild and creative and interesting. And the people that would come to our shows were as fascinating as the people on stage. So I feel like the downside now is like, drag is kind of basic, it's sort of the pumpkin latte of gay culture, and with that, it kind of gets watered down a little bit.
And there's also
I get a little bit sad because I haven't watched Drag Race in quite some time, although I have watched it. But it seemed to me that in the early days of the show, the drag itself was more interesting and more creative, and now it just seems more expensive.
Yeah, but also
it just costs so much money to put those outfits together, and it seems to have. There seems to have been not that the queens on the show aren't fabulously talented. I think they are, and they wouldn't be on the show if they didn't have talent. but there is an emphasis on the external.
100%. And there's not the skill. I mean, Peaches, you put together the most random, beautifully orchestrated shows, and I'm not sure that talent exists with a current season cast member of Drag Race, or if so, they're very few and far between.
I think one of the biggest issues with what Drag Race did, in especially referring to what Peaches was talking about, was not making a lane for the legends. Why? They don't have to be there every week, but why isn't Peaches or Coco, Varla, Jackie B, why aren't they judges occasionally? Why don't we see people who made 30 plus year careers out of doing drag before there was a TV show judging girls who've been doing it for a year and saying, listen, girl, if you want to do it for 30 years after the cameras are gone, let me tell you, maybe change this, change that. There should have been that lane.
Yeah, I wish I knew the answer.
Well, yeah.
You know, we've all, I'll say this. I think all of us would be flattered and willing to go on that show at any moment. And so, you know, it's a choice. It's clearly a choice. There's never really been a drag queen judge on the panel. Well, outside of Elvira.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they've never invited.
And Ross Matthews. Not kidding. He's a drag king. Anyway, no.
Right.
A king with tits.
Yeah. So I want to ask this question kind of in a different way. You know, people have said over the years, like the John Waters films have gotten tamer. We know that we're in a really difficult political time for the drag community, the LGBT plus community, even the artistic community. We're suffering politically. Do you think our projects have to get tamer just to build bridges with the conservative side? Or do you think, I mean, look at the early films, and Peaches, look at your early films. I mean, you did a movie called Jizzmopper, a love story.
Yeah.
Do you think we've tamed our stuff down to become more mainstream because we need to for our survival? Or do you think we should even go further with our art, make bigger statements, and screw what the conservatives want?
You know how I'm going to answer this already.
They look at each other.
Well, I may be answering it a completely different way. I don't think it's big statement, small statement. I think it's authentic statement and talented statement and funny statement and something that gets people's attention, be it a grosser or less gross or mainstream or less mainstream. It has to work. And I think if you try too hard to conquer the mainstream, you're going to lose something. But if you try too hard to go beyond the mainstream and to shock the mainstream, you may also lose something. So I don't think that that's really what you should be. That's not the question.
I actually agree with you. I would say that I think what's important now is to realize that all of that noise, all of that anti-gay stuff, the drag queens are pedophiles, that really it is just hate from bigots, and that the answer isn't to sort of make media or make content or create art that I don't know, proves them wrong. I actually, one of my favorite things about the movie Saltburn is not so much, I liked the film a lot. I especially liked the dance at the end, but I like that, it's really causing people to have conversations about stuff, and I feel like it's provocative in a good way. It made sense in the movie. And, I don't think artists should not be afraid of that sort of stuff. I don't think it works when you try to create work that's going to, satisfy the largest number of people. I'm niche within a niche within a niche. I'm a drag queen who's horror, that's weird, and now works in symphonies and makes haunted houses. What am I,
Mink,
when you try to please everybody, you end up, I mean, this is such a trite statement. When you try to please everybody, you just water yourself down.
When he brought up modern day John Waters, that made me think of, they just talked about a few months ago that Liarmouth, his next film, has a completed script. Are you going to be part of it? Have you read it? What's happening?
I have not read it. We have not discussed it. I would imagine that I'll be involved in some way, but we have not discussed it.
Ironically, he's been blowing up her phone all day. We've been doing these interviews and on the screen and stuff. It comes in like call from John Waters.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
call
so
me.
crazy.
Where are
yeah,
you?
he's like,
Yeah.
we can start filming tomorrow. Okay, we need to talk about the two of you.
Sorry, John, but we're in interviews.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
She's
Have
doing
my
press.
people call your people. Yeah. So, Idol Worship is a show you're bringing to Green Room 42 in New York City, among other cities. You both met during All About Evil. What were your first reactions to meeting each other, and what sparked this friendship of decades?
Well, we didn't meet at All About Evil.
Oh.
All About Evil, I agreed to because we were already friends.
Oh, I thought that's how you met.
No. So we actually met back when I was doing Midnight Mass,
Yes.
with the live event at the Bridge Theater in San Francisco, where I screened cult movies and had a drag show before the movies. And after some years, I started in 1998. And after a couple seasons in like 2000, I thought, I'm going to bring an actual cult film icon. And, you know, John Waters being my favorite filmmaker and Mink Stole being my favorite actress, I sent a letter to her publicist at the time and invited her in a very, you know, gushy fan letter, basically, you know, like come up and let us worship you. And so she came to Midnight Mass and we worshiped her. And then we struck up a friendship after that.
It was a wonderful night for me. It was a really amazing night for me. I was treated like like a goddess. And I have to say, I liked it.
Peaches, as such a fan of John and Mink, what is your favorite John Waters movie, and what's your favorite Mink Stole performance? It doesn't have to be the same movie, obviously, but
Oh, there's our fashion.
Oh, that's
Yeah. Calvin Klein.
Yeah, Calvin Klein.
Talk about mainstream.
Yeah, my favorite film has traditionally been Female Trouble. And I, of course, love Mink, and Female Trouble is Taffy Davenport. But because I'm going to say Female Trouble is my favorite movie, I'm going to say that my favorite Mink Stole performance is Dottie Hinkle in Serial. I just can't get enough of it.
ridiculous.
But that movie really it brought generations together. Everybody was seeing this movie, and so again, like I would say, it opened up a whole different audience to John Waters' content. That's what that film did, you know. And Kathleen Turner was like devoted to doing that role. She did it so well.
Kathleen Turner should have gotten an Oscar for that part. I mean, I say that with no hesitation, because it is the most subtle, I've said this before, it is the most subtle performance of a monster.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
That's a horror movie when you really think about it.
She's a serial killer. That's why. Yeah, I mean, literally, she has all the traits of an actual serial killer. We like her. We want to hang out with her, and then she'll kill us.
We want to be her best friend.
So Peaches and Mink, having worked together on so many different projects, what do you think over the years you've learned the most from each other?
Gosh, I think for me, I really have learned about staying real and being friends with Mink led to a friendship with John. And the fact that they have so generously opened up their chosen family to like me and my husband and my family. My mother has been to John's house. You know, Mink and my mother know each other very well. That they're so real and so not Hollywood, you know, and their egos are so right-sized, and they're just like lovely, wonderful people who enjoy life, you know, and really like don't sweat the small stuff. I don't know. I've learned a lot. I mean, Mink is like a spiritual, you know, guru for me, because she's just so normal in this way that's healthy for me. You know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it other than it just doesn't have a lot of the show business bullshit that you get with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I've learned from Joshua that when he asks me to do something, I say yes.
It's like improv. Yes, and?
Yes, and.
Yeah. What am I doing?
And then you get in trouble because, you know, you sew her mouth shut in a movie. And she finds out afterwards that we're going to be putting a prosthetic on her mouth.
Yeah. I should learn to read a script.
Yeah.
Now, Mink, I know that when you first got involved with the John Waters clan, your mom was not a fan at all of what you were doing. But
My mother was always a John fan. She adored John. He charmed her, and he could make her laugh, but she hated what we were doing.
But she
really did.
she turned around. She was in Hairspray. She was
in Hairspray. She's in the auto show.
So how did that kind of relationship come around where she's like, you know what? Okay, these people are cool. Your lifestyle, I support. Good for you.
No.
No.
I was really hard to say.
No, she just took the extra spot.
Yeah, she's like, no.
But she really liked John. She thought John was delightful and charming and just a wonderful human. But she just hated what we were doing because it embarrassed her. She was really embarrassed. She came to see Roman Candles.
Wow.
And there's a scene, it wasn't anything that I had done. I'm tame in Roman Candles, but there is a scene in the movie where a nun in full makeup, in a habit, but wearing full makeup with eyelashes and lipstick, smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer, is making out with a priest.
That was fresh.
My mother was a very devoted Catholic. She was a really good Catholic, and she was so offended by that. So she wouldn't come to see anything else, and that's fine. She didn't need to see Pink Flamingos. She did not need to see Desperate Living. She really didn't need to see. But she did come to see Polyester. Because I said, Mom, this is one you can see. Come and see this one. And John finally said, you can see it. It's all right. So she took not my word for it, but his, and came to see it. And she thought it was funny. So after that, and then after that was Hairspray.
Yeah.
But Polyester was the one that kind of, because there's nothing in Polyester that's really terrible.
Did the success of Hairspray change the core group at all? Was it weird after you guys suddenly were making movies for Baltimore versus?
Well, and they had like SAG contracts actually. Like it was.
My first SAG contract was Hairspray, and that did change things. I have to admit.
For the core group, it did change.
We have food. Now we have craft services. Which we never had before. First movie we ever had even remote craft services on was Polyester, and that was because Tab Hunter was in it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't a SAG film. So, but anyway, what changed everything was Divine died.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea where the movies would have gone had Divine lived. I really don't know. But it's impossible to know that. But that changed everything for John, for us. And, but I think it took John a while to get over that loss. It was a huge loss for John. But then with Serial Mom, I think Serial Mom is his absolute, as far as I agree with Peaches with Joshua that Female Trouble is my very favorite of the early films. It's got a great storyline and the acting is good throughout. But Serial Mom is his best film. It works the best. I think Kathleen Turner is flawless in it. And it's Sam Waterston made a John Waters movie.
Insane.
Yeah.
Wild.
And that was the beginning. That was Matthew Lillard's first movie. Yeah. And, Ricky by that time was Family.
Yeah.
Ricky became Family.
And Tracy. It's interesting. There was like this sort of the Dreamlanders that were there all along. Yeah. Like you and Bonnie would show up in the movies, or Mary Vivian Pierce, and Susan Lowe is often, you see her in the background. But then these new Dreamlanders, like Ricky and Tracy.
Ricky and Tracy and Patty Hearst.
Patty Hearst, yeah.
Would you say Patty Hearst? I mean, that's such a mixture of everything from like pop culture and cinema. Okay, we need to know idol worship. Again, you're bringing it to New York and other cities as well. It's had a great run in San Francisco. What is idol worship all about? What should we expect?
It's basically an evening with the two of us, and we are...
Sold. That's all I need to hear.
We are sitting down and having conversations and really sharing an evening with the entire audience. But we also get up and sing songs and make jokes. It's
Joshua's put together amazing film clips.
Yeah, we
really
look at film
astonishing film clip reels. And so it's an easy evening of fun.
Yeah, especially if you are a devoted John Waters fan, this is a show for you because I've made it from the point of view of a fan who worships Mink Stole and these characters. And so, it's not the same show that she would make on her own, but it does feature so much of what makes Mink special that, both our friendship, the intimacy of getting to know the woman who's sitting here, as well as conversations in celebrating Peggy Gravel, Dottie Hinkle, Tappy Davenport.
Josh, Peaches, as someone who obviously is such a film aficionado and a drag artist, what is your favorite film about drag and why?
Oh, gosh. I think maybe the most important film as far as drag kind of existing the way it does today with the popularity of RuPaul's Drag Race is Jenny Livingston's Paris is Burning documentary. Because it was such for better or worse, right? But it was such an amazing, incredible document of a culture that existed completely underground from a group of creative people who created their own world of entertainment and dance style, fantasy. They didn't have access to what society was doing without them. So they created their own version of it. And it was a better version. And we see it now permeate drag culture on every level. I think a lot of young teens do not know where a lot of this stuff comes from.
Yep.
Paris is Burning might be the most important, I think.
It should be required viewing for any drag queen, any LGBTQ person. It's this is your rite of passage. This is your driver's test. We're going to have an exam after.
No, my 60-something.
This is your history.
Yeah.
This came before you. This is the Underground Railroad.
And it came from a community of color. I think that's the other thing to note is a lot of white queens have bigger followings. That's because of racism, and a lot of culture has been taken from people without, proper attribution. And I think Paris is Burning is a great example of hey, you want to see where all this stuff comes from that you think is yours and your friends? No.
You think you thought this happened?
Right.
Even like the death drop. I mean, it was called something
Even
before.
my 60-something suburban mom knows what reading and shade is, but that's because that came from that documentary and then became through.
Yeah.
And even that documentary, talk about racism, is a result of the previous drag documentary with Crystal Abasia and all them, which she wasn't crowned and she formed this, which then became Paris is Burning.
That's right.
That's
wild.
Right.
All right, I know we need to get you back to rehearsal, but I have another little heavy question because with both of your long credits, what do we focus on, right? What has been, as a creative, as an entertainer, what has been one of the most challenging moments from your career? You look back and you're like, God, that was a challenge, and I got through it.
That is a good question.
That's a good question. For me, I will say there's a scene that I did in I forgot the name of the movie. The one with Johnny Depp. What's that one?
Crybaby.
I am old. Sorry. There's a scene in Crybaby where I'm in an iron lung in the courtroom. And the sad part of the story is that the setup, this is a punchline, but the setup to the joke was cut out from the film. So you don't get why it's funny that I'm in an iron lung. But I had to be in this contraption. It was a real iron lung. It wasn't working, but it was a real iron lung. And I had to be in it for many hours during, because I was just in the background while, all these other people were getting to talk. I was just in the background lying in this iron lung. And the one thing about it is that being in it, there's a mirror over your head and your head is sticking out of this tube. And there's absolutely no connection between your eye and your body. There's absolutely no physical relation to your body. You're completely disembodied visually. And it's really strange. I mean, I don't know how to describe it because I could see people behind me, but I couldn't even see my own face in the mirror. So, I mean, I don't know. And I was like, and between that and having my mouth sewn shut, it was also really.
Sorry.
No, it's great, but it was horrible. But having that inability to speak with because my mouth was literally sewn shut. My lips weren't touched, as a prosthetic, but I still couldn't open my mouth, and I'm chatty.
Well, but also like feeling so isolated from the rest of the cast or whatever, your mind probably starts to wander. You feel claustrophobic, and it's like
really scribbly.
Yeah.
Move it along, hurry. Can I say fuck?
Yes.
Get going.
That maybe that should be my answer. Was Mink having her mouth sewn shut? But the reality of it is, and anyone who knows anything about me in the last few years knows that I found my friend Heklina dead in London when we were doing a show together. I mean, nothing hopefully will top that, as far as a challenge goes.
Should I really be traveling with you?
I said to Sister Roma, she came with us to London to the Royal Albert Hall.
We love Sister Roma.
And every day I would be like, you're still alive. Is today the day?
See, but this kind of humor, we're talking about Heklina and, so much affection and love. And this is how we kind of work through it as creatives. We joke about it and we enjoy life through that. And, just a small circle, Josh is new to the drag community this year.
Half of my closet is from Heklina from the estate sale. My drag mom, Vanity Halston, got me into there. And I have I have 35 Heklina pieces, 4 pairs of shoes, and like 7 wigs that all came from that estate sale.
It'll look fabulous on you. That's all I'll say.
It does. Palm Springs loves it.
Yeah, but this is like the circle of life, and the fact that we can, have these memories and work through them as a community. I think, that's a testament.
She taught me more than anyone to laugh at the most horrifying things. She would be the first in line to be obsessed with her own story if it weren't her. You know what I mean? Like, she would have been obsessed with this drag queen dying in London. And she would have been cracking jokes and cackling. Of course we're upset. Of course it was painful and horrible, but we're evil queens who get through life, with comedy, Mink knows Heklina could be quite evil.
Oh.
That's all we'll say. Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much. I want to know, what message do you have for your fans?
Come to the show.
I think it's that. I mean, honestly, it's like supporting live theater right now is so appreciated. And in return for supporting the people who put on live theater, my hope is that you allow yourself to escape. The world is dark. Things are shitty right now. The news is bleak. So come to the show and just laugh with us and relax and escape.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, your fans can look up where you're going to pop up next at peacheschrist.com. And of course, we know you're making your splash in New York on the 16th and 17th of February. Get tickets now because they will not be waiting around.
That's right.
That's right.
Thank you both so much. What a pleasure to chat with you. And we'll come see the show. When are you coming to LA, by the way?
Eventually, someday.
Okay. Well, we'll be there front and center.
Okay.
Thank you both so much. Bye.
Oh, what an icon.
I just can't imagine, talking to these people and
icons.
It kind of gives you the chills. It's like, well, what am I doing? I want to push the envelope,
I mean, after hearing about Midnight Mass, I was like, I need to figure that out.
Get it together, baby. Okay.
Idea.
You're here with our reality TV recap because there's a lot going on. Why don't you just take it away?
We have to talk about reality TV. There's so much happening right now.
And you literally watch it all. I don't know how you do that and your drag at the same time.
Well, because they inspire me. I love the Housewives. I watch a lot of the Housewives. We're going to talk about them because there's so much news happening right now.
Yeah.
The first news is that Candy Burrs, who has been on the Real Housewives of Atlanta for 14 years. She's one of the longest running housewives of any franchise ever. She is it. It's Candy. She's a producer on that show too. And she's decided to step away.
I didn't know she was a producer.
Well, after the whole Phaedra thing. She's decided to step away from the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
years.
And it's her decision. Bravo offered her a contract. She said, no, thank you. She's still going to make TV with Bravo, apparently, but not be a housewife. Fans have been reacting. I personally don't think we need Candy anymore. She had hit her height when her family hated Todd and she married him anyway and all that. But ever since then, we've just been getting like basic Candy.
Well, once Nene left, I'm going to be honest, my relationship with Atlanta Housewives has it's come in and out, but it's not really been as strong. I never thought Candy would have lasted all these years. I thought, oh, she's going to come do her thing, and then she's going to get so over these women because she was professional. She was doing the music. She was in her girl group. She was growing her
Candy
family.
wrote Bills.
Yeah.
No strings attached.
So it's like she
no
didn't
scrubs.
need Housewives.
That was fresh.
You know, not to put down the franchise, but she was doing her damn thing. So I am surprised that she lasted year after year after year. But I always thought that she had this air that she didn't need the show, which she didn't. But I think over the last couple of years, it's made her kind of vanilla on the show and not.
It's made her, I mean, that whole Phaedra thing that happened really burned her. She definitely was a different cast member after. But to be honest, I'd rather have Phaedra than Candy. Like, literally
We
the
know
first
Phaedra
thing
for her one-liner.
when Candy left, I was like, all right, Phaedra is killing it on Traders right now. She is the trader. Everyone's talking about her. She's on Married to Medicine. She's on Ultimate Girls Trip. The only reason she can't come back to the failing Real Housewives of Atlanta is because Candy won't let her. It's like, this show's dying. You need Phaedra
Did
Park.
you just say failing?
It is. It used to have 5 million viewers a week at the height of it when it was Kenya, Cynthia, Nene, Phaedra, all them. Now they get 500,000 a week.
That's because the other franchises are bumping it up, and we only have time to watch so many shows.
It's also casting. It's like these girls are bored. So now the rumor is that they're going to bring Portia back for this season's Sweet 16. There's a lot of pressure on it. How are they going to save Real Housewives of Atlanta for Sweet 16? Rumors that Portia and Kenya will anchor it.
That's what I heard. That was kind of announced.
I think you need Nene too, and you need Phaedra. So Carlos King, the famous producer who produced like Real Housewives of New Jersey and Atlanta and all these things, he said the only way to truly save Atlanta is to bring back Portia and Phaedra together because they've never filmed and talked about what happened with Candy, their whole friendship fallout, all this. Phaedra's more popular than ever. It's the only way.
Well, and I do miss Nene, but I don't miss Nene how she ended up with the show where she was just quiet.
But now
and
she's
whatever.
grateful. I think now she would be grateful for the spot.
Well, she did the podcast with Bethany, and then afterwards, all of a sudden, she started. I forget. She refollowed somebody. There was something to allude to the fact that she was talking to Bravo.
Oh, I'll tell you what she did.
Again.
So she went on Bethany's podcast. They all badmouthed Bravo and their experience. They took a ton of
Andy
photos.
Cohen, yep.
Then someone must have crossed a bridge. An olive tree must have been let out because Nene then deleted all her stuff with Bethany.
That's
and
right.
Bravo and her refollowed each other.
Yes.
So now people are like, oh, she's going to be back on Sweet 16 too, which could be good.
Yeah, even if she's a friend of and she causes issues, but she has to come back as the original Nene with her sass and her like.
But she was blackballed from Hollywood. I think she would come back that way. She knows the importance of showing up on screen.
Yeah.
Speaking of showing up on screen, let's move to Salt Lake City, which Alexander watched because I literally was like, how are you not watching Salt Lake City?
Poor Tony running our graphics. He's like, I don't know these women. It's Monica.
Monica Garcia is where we're going next. So Monica Garcia, right there, the beauty of season 4. She came in this season, changed up everything.
Like a wrecking ball.
Yeah, she came in like a wrecking ball, truly. She was Reality Von T. She ran an Instagram account that was trolling all of these women for years, making their lives miserable.
We're talking viciously, not just funny sayings or whatever.
And so now all the women, of course, were like, we won't film with her. We won't film with her. And Monica loses her job. Meanwhile, this is the highest rated Salt Lake City's ever been. People like you who never watched Salt Lake City are suddenly interested.
I only watched it because of all the hype, all of the memes, all the social media, and because I listened to what you have to say. And you said, watch it. And I was like, I don't have time to watch it. Well, guess what? I binged it within a week.
1 a.m.
Yeah, I was like, I got one more episode to go.
Bermuda,
And then I was hooked.
But the problem is, so all these women who've been on the show say, we won't film with Monica anymore. She has to be fired. So they fire her. Where are you going in season 5?
Well,
all these new
Josh,
fans.
be
who
careful
cares?
with your verbiage. She's not fired. She's on pause.
Yeah, she's on pause.
She's
like
on
Dorinda.
pause.
Like
Yeah.
Dorinda.
Clip.
But why not to me, I'm like, no, Housewives, you made a deal with the devil to be famous. He's going to collect. You have to film with Monica. The audience wants to see the fallout the same way they want to see Sandoval and Ariana Madix and all them filming right now on Vanderpump Rules.
Here's the thing. We've seen really nasty things happen on every franchise. There's always forgiveness on some level. There's always a new villain every season just because it has to be. Danielle Staub, who we've had on the show, talked about they want her to be the villain, and goddamn, she was the villain. She came back into the fold as well. Here's the thing, though, and I think we said on the last podcast, I think Bravo has to be very careful, especially with Salt Lake City. When you had somebody from the past season get arrested and there's like actual legal activity and prison time, does Bravo want to create a quote unquote traumatic, harassing experience? And now we've seen that Monica can be really conniving and nasty. What if she comes back for a new season and she says that the way she's treated by all the housewives is so traumatic, she's going to sue Bravo and every single one of those women? Would you put that past her?
No, but I still want her on the show. It's like Phaedra.
I liked her.
Monica and Phaedra, I'm like, what you get out of them is worth the trauma to their co-stars and the sketchy behavior that they're doing.
It's like when you eat Chipotle with the extra hot sauce, you know it's just not going to end up well, but you love it so much when you consume it. And I loved Monica. I even told you, I said I loved her. She was a single mom. She was working hard. She was having a difficult relationship with her mom. You know, she was very honest about her past, which I don't think a lot of housewives are. She said, yeah, I had an affair.
Yeah.
But little by little, her true colors started to come out when she started the shouting, and she, to me, became a bully on the show. And I wish she would talk about some of that action.
So if you were one of the housewives, you would not want to film with Monica?
If I'm smart and I'm a business person first, I would definitely film with her.
That's me.
To have more drama and all
Kenya
that.
Moore says that. She's like, I hate most of the people they put on, but I also know that I like being on TV and I know what makes good TV.
And I'm honest about it. I didn't know either one of those women on Salt Lake City. Even like the third episode in, I was like, Josh, I'm never going to get these women's right. I know they're women. I know their husband. I know
rumors,
where they live.
The nastiness.
The nastiness and rumors. Okay, next
All right,
time.
Then so Real Housewives of New York City is also making news this week because, as you may or may not know, the Real Housewives of New York City was the second franchise ever Bravo did. After 15 years, they fired the original group, brought on this group right here.
The legacy.
They are the reboot group. It's a new New York. They look and feel like the modern city. It did all right. I liked it. You hated it.
It
you
was
did
so
not like those girls.
boring. These women just did not bring it in any way. I thought because we have to be diverse, there was no spice at all. It's the most diverse cast I've ever seen without any
boring.
And I'm sorry, some of it. So we're the everyday person, and I use that in quotes. I'm assuming most of the people that are fans of the show are just everyday people. Yeah. We like to see the glitz and the glamour, but we also like to see the housewives get trashy, get drunk, and all this kind of stuff. These women were so entitled and so boring in their entitlement. Even when they would get a little tipsy or fight, they were fighting about a cheese plate or they were fighting about the stupidest stuff. And to me, it angered me as like, I'm working how many hours a week to keep my brand going, to keep this? At least be interesting. You're crying about a cheese plate. You're crying about a trip to somewhere. It was so entitled. It was nauseating.
They were all just too aware of the cameras, of the fans.
100%. Their own brand, their business.
Instagram would react to it later. Even though they're playing the scene in real time, they were already thinking ahead, how is this going to play on social?
That was exactly right.
So because of this reason, surprise, surprise. So that's the reboot. The original ladies who have been on the show for a million years, Bravo didn't know what to do with them. So they put them on Legacy. They put them in a girls trip. They sent them to Bermuda or Bahamas or something.
Which I loved. Was there. Seen Kelly come back and she's not changed a day.
Fine. Yeah.
It was very tame, though. It still didn't go as far as I thought it was going to go.
I actually had trouble finishing it because the thing about the original cast of Real Housewives of New York, they always do the same thing. They're going to drink until blackout. They're going to be horny and they're going to read each other.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be offended about what they said when they were drunk and horny and blackout.
Yeah.
But now Bravo's figured out the thing that's going to save Real Housewives of New York. They're going to blend the two casts together, apparently.
Smart.
So Luann, Dorinda, Sonia with Brynn, Jessel.
Jessel and Sonia already started doing social media stuff.
Oh, no, not Sai. Sorry. Erin And then Uba, apparently as a friend of, they fired Psy, who was one of the biggest names of the new regroup. She was the influencer who like made fashion videos with her family.
But she just came and
it was a bad year for her. So they fired her. And then obviously Jenna Lyons was like, I don't want to be any part of this. Ramona has all that racism problem. So I don't
want Ramona anywhere near it.
And then Kristen lives in Beverly Hills and Kelly's a disaster. So it made sense that like Luann, Sonia, and Dorinda.
I love Kristen, but she's boring. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
But they've already started doing clips together.
Yeah, Bryn was at an event with Luann recently. Yeah. Like, what are they doing?
I can see them as man hungry as they are. They're going to cost so much. Oh my God, girl.
It's going to be a disaster.
It's going to be wonderful. Okay.
So then that was New York. On Miami, there's not much to say about Miami except that you all are not watching what is the best Housewives.
I don't have time for another franchise. You already got me hooked on. This is Salt Lake City. I cannot do Miami.
But so you liked what the Mormons did? Imagine what the Miami Latinas are doing.
Well, and I know the Latino
come on.
Too.
Yeah, exactly. They have actual money in Miami. They're yelling in English and Spanish. It's helping me. I got rid of Duolingo. Just for this.
That's so ridiculous.
This last week on Miami, 2 of them were fighting about using their husband's money while a third woman was fainting and a fourth woman was talking about her pride gig that she was performing.
So how come it's not going as socially viral as Salt Lake City?
I don't know.
Because I haven't seen any memes about it.
I think this is interesting for you to talk about in general. There is a certain way in which in media, Latina and Latino media gets lost. In a black and white world, even Broadway, Lin-Manuel Miranda, he is that, but other than that, like you don't see
he did In the Heights,
Latin shows
Hamilton
the way you do black
him.
And white shows in movies, in TV. The Latin housewives are having the same problem. They can't find the audience. It's not Potomac or Atlanta where it's all black. It's not New Jersey or Beverly, and they have trouble finding their.
Well, that's interesting.
Their people.
Growing up in conservative Orange County, being Latino was always like, oh, it's Latino. It means it's second rate. It's not as rich as, it's not as funny as, it's not as. And that's a running theme.
It's a shame.
But also, I gave Miami Housewives the first couple of seasons, and nothing was really happening for me. So I was like, I'm done.
Since the reboot's a whole different beast.
I didn't know they gave it a reboot.
Yeah, the reboot
maybe Bravo's not
2
even
years
advertising
ago.
enough.
Well,
I didn't know there was a reboot.
Yeah, so they rebooted it 2 years ago or so, and it started as a Peacock original. It was so popular on Peacock that now it's transitioned back to Bravo proper.
I'll give it 3 episodes. How's that?
So good. And then the last Housewives news is Beverly Hills. Nothing new is happening there except if you're following there, Kyle Richards there on the left. She's been in a 26-year marriage to Mauricio, her husband. Now they're separating. Everyone's saying she was with Morgan Wade right there on
allegedly,
the right.
We can't say for sure.
Everyone is saying allegedly that they're together. They've been filming together. They puppy eyes at each other, this whole thing. Cut to this week. Morgan and Kyle delete all the photos of each other from their Instagrams.
That is drama.
And also, if you're not a lesbian couple, why are you deleting photos from Instagrams like a breakup? If you are just friends, just leave yourselves on Instagram.
And I'm sorry, Kyle teased it this whole season. She teased something's going on, but I'm not going to say. She teased it, whatever. That was her only real storyline. Honestly, I don't care.
It'd be more interesting if she just said it. If the storyline was, I'm leaving my family, I'm in love with a woman, that's more interesting than I have a best friend.
I'm exploring my options even. I think from the LGBTQ point of view, with everything going on, I think it's very dangerous for somebody to quote unquote dip their toes. Remember, Danielle Staub did it, Kim Zolciak did it, and I think it's really rude because you can't just use our community for headlines or something if you're not really into it. Or if you are into it and you're exploring, you don't have to be a full lesbian, but tell people it's okay to explore your feelings. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But be honest about it. That's what I don't like using our community.
Oh.
That's all I'm going to say about that. All right, girl. Vanderpump Rules, yawn. Sorry, yawn.
It's tough.
I think we're just over it. We're burned out.
They filmed so quickly after Sandoval, but we're all tired of Sandoval.
Mm-hmm.
So while they're living in it in a real, raw, immediate way, we're looking at it like, oh, that happened a year and a half ago.
Yeah. 100%. All right. Well, that was our reality TV wrap up. I mean, there's so much going on all the time. Josh, where do you want people to find and follow you?
You can follow me at Josh Ferri, or if you want to follow my drag persona, it's at Normally High.
I love it. And you can follow my personal one at Alexander is on air. And that's our show for today. It's always fun. We never know where the show's going to end up. Every week on The Rocks. Big thank you to our engineer and station owner, Tony Sweet, our social media clip editor, Alexis Mendez. Please like, share, subscribe so we can continue bringing this fabulous programming coming your way for free. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, stay sexy, and if you drink, stay tipsy. This has been another episode of On the Rocks. Tweet me and slide into my DMs on Twitter and Instagram at On the Rocks On Air. Find everything On the Rocks for free at OnTheRocksRadioShow.com. Subscribe, like, review, and share. Until next week, stay fabulous.